Two people, both $18,400 in debt, spread across 4 cards. Same total, same interest rates, same income. Rachel attacks the highest interest card first, the mathematically correct move, the one every finance calculator recommends. Marcus attacks his smallest balance first, a card with barely any interest at all, the wrong choice by every spreadsheet. 2 years later, Marcus is debt-free. Rachel still owes $6,200. The math says Rachel should have won. She didn't. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why the mathematically correct way to pay off debt fails more often than the wrong one, and it has nothing to do with intelligence, income, or effort. Rachel did what any financially literate person is told to do. She lined up all 4 cards by interest rate, 24%, 19%, 16%, 9%, and threw every spare dollar at the 24% card first, making only minimums on the rest. This is called the debt avalanche method, and mathematically, it's unbeatable. It minimizes total interest paid. No calculator will ever tell you otherwise. For the first 5 months, it worked exactly as designed. The 24% card started shrinking. Rachel felt sharp, disciplined, like she was doing this the smart way. Then month 6 happened. Here's what nobody puts in the spreadsheet. Rachel's highest interest card also happened to be her largest balance, $9,100 of the $18,400, which meant that after 5 months of aggressive payments, the number on that card had moved from $9,100 to about $7,800. A dent, technically. But visually, psychologically, it still looked almost exactly like the mountain she started with. Meanwhile, her other 3 cards, the ones she'd been paying minimums on, hadn't moved at all. 3 untouched balances sitting there, month after month, as a constant reminder that most of her debt wasn't shrinking. This is the part behavioral researchers have studied directly, and it has a name. The debt avalanche method requires sustained motivation over the longest possible timeline before you see your first real win, because the biggest balance, by definition, takes the longest to disappear. Rachel's brain wasn't broken. It was doing exactly what human brains do when reward feels distant. It started looking for reasons to stop trying so hard. Month 7, Rachel's car needed new tires. Not a disaster, a completely ordinary expense. But instead of finding the money elsewhere, something shifted. She quietly reduced her extra payment on the 24% card that month. Just this once, she told herself. I'll make it up next month. She made a smaller extra payment the month after that too, and the month after that. Not because she gave up, because the finish line on her biggest card was still years away, and a smaller, temporary reduction didn't feel like it was breaking anything important. Marcus's plan looked, on paper, objectively worse. He ignored interest rates entirely and paid off his smallest balance first, a $1,200 card with a relatively low 9% rate. Financially, this made no sense. He was leaving cheaper debt for later and paying more in total interest over time, guaranteed. But 30 days in, something happened that never happened for Rachel. An entire card hit 0. Gone. Closed out. 1 full account, completely eliminated, from a list that used to have 4. This is what researchers call a small win. A concrete, complete, achieved outcome, even if it's modest in scale. And small wins do something specific to motivation that abstract progress doesn't. They create proof. Not I'm making progress in the abstract, but I did the entire thing, start to finish, and it worked. That proof is the fuel for whatever comes next. Here's the deeper mechanism at work, and it's worth understanding precisely, because it explains almost everything else in this video. A balance that shrinks from $9,100 to $7,800, and a balance that goes from $1,200 to $0 represent almost the same dollar amount of progress, roughly $1,200 to $1,300 either way. But your brain does not process these as equivalent. One is still there, just a little smaller. The other is completely gone. The finished closed account triggers a genuine sense of completion. The partially reduced account, no matter how much smaller, still reads as an open, ongoing obligation. This tracks with a broader finding in psychology. Humans respond disproportionately to closure. An unfinished task, even one that's 90% complete, occupies mental space differently than a finished one, however small. Marcus's brain got to file that $1,200 card away completely. Rachel's brain, 5 months in, was still holding open 4 separate mental tabs, none of them closed, regardless of how much total progress she'd made. Here's where Marcus's mathematically wrong plan started compounding in a way no spreadsheet models. After closing his first card, he rolled that entire payment, the amount he used to send to the $1,200 card, now freed up completely, onto his next smallest balance. Suddenly, his second smallest card wasn't just getting its own minimum payment, it was getting minimum plus the full amount he used to spend on card 1. That card closed faster than the first one had, and when it closed, its payment rolled onto the third. This is the mechanical core of the snowball, the reason it has that name. Each closed balance doesn't just disappear. Its payment amount gets absorbed by the next target, so your payoff power grows every single time you finish a card. It starts slow and small, exactly like Marcus's first month. But by his fourth card, his original highest interest, largest balance card, the same one Rachel was struggling with the entire time, he was throwing an amount at it that had grown substantially larger than what he started with, purely from absorbed payments. Around month 10, Rachel got a message from Marcus, a screenshot, 1 card, showing $0. She felt a flash of something uncomfortable. He'd started with the exact same total debt she had. How was he already this far ahead, attacking the wrong cards in the wrong order? What she didn't see behind that screenshot, 3 closed cards, and a payment amount on his fourth that had nearly tripled from where it started. Here's the part of this video that has to be honest, because pretending the Avalanche method has no advantage would be dishonest, and this channel doesn't do that. In pure interest terms, the Avalanche method is mathematically superior every single time, with no exceptions. Depending on the specific balances and rates involved, the difference in total interest paid between Snowball and Avalanche can range from relatively small to genuinely significant, sometimes several $100s, sometimes more, depending on how large the gap is between your highest and lowest interest rates. If you are the kind of person who can look at a 5-year payoff plan and stay motivated by an interest rate spreadsheet alone, with no need for the psychological boost of closing accounts, the Avalanche method will save you real money, and you should use it. This isn't a video that claims math doesn't matter. It's a video about what happens to real math in real spreadsheets when a real human being loses motivation in month 7 and quietly stops following it. This isn't just theory or two people's stories. Researchers have actually studied which method people stick with when using real financial data from real households managing multiple debts. Behavioral researchers analyzing large sets of actual consumer debt payoff behavior found that people who focused on paying off their smallest balances first were significantly more likely to successfully eliminate all of their debt entirely, compared to people who prioritized by interest rate. The core finding: tackling small debts first produces quick, visible wins that sustain the motivation required to eliminate debt completely, and that motivational effect was strong enough to outweigh the extra interest costs for most people in the study. In other words, the wrong method, tested against real behavior instead of theoretical spreadsheets, produced more people who actually finished. And an interest-optimal plan you abandon in month 8 saves you nothing. The theoretically superior math only pays off if you complete it, and completion is exactly the variable the Avalanche method struggles with. It's tempting to say Rachel simply had less willpower than Marcus. That's not what happened, and it's an important distinction. Willpower is a depleting resource. Psychologists have shown repeatedly that exercising self-control drains a shared reserve, meaning it gets harder to sustain difficult choices the longer they're required without relief. Rachel's plan demanded 5, 6, 7 months of sustained effort before delivering a single moment of, "This is actually working," a payoff structure that specifically depletes willpower the fastest, because there's no closure event to recover from between decisions. Marcus's plan, by design, delivered a closure event roughly every month or two throughout the first year. Each closed card wasn't just progress. It was a recovery point, a small reset that made the next stretch of effort easier to sustain than the last. He wasn't more disciplined. His plan simply asked less of a resource that predictably runs out. Here's the compounding reveal, the part of this story where the math and the psychology finally converge into something dramatic. By month 18, Marcus had closed 3 cards, the payment now hitting his final, largest, highest interest balance, the same card type Rachel had been grinding against from day one, had grown to nearly 4 times his original monthly payment amount, purely from absorbed payments stacking on top of each other. That's the part spreadsheets model correctly, but explanations usually skip. The snowball's wrong order doesn't just feel better, it eventually attacks the worst debt anyway. Just later, and with dramatically more force than it started with, because everything closed before it feeds directly into it. Marcus's final card, the expensive one, the one that should have taken years at his original payment rate, closed in a fraction of that time once the full weight of 3 closed cards landed on it at once. Rachel, at month 18, had reduced her original 24% card from $9,100 to roughly $4,300. Real progress, genuinely, but 3 other cards sat almost untouched, and her extra payments had shrunk to a fraction of what they'd been in month 1. If you're carrying multiple debts right now, here's the honest, unhyped version of what this video is actually telling you to do. If your highest interest card is also your smallest balance, there's no dilemma at all. Attack it first, and you get the psychological win and the math win simultaneously. The real choice only matters when your highest interest debt happens to be your largest balance, like Rachel's. That's the exact scenario where the two methods genuinely diverge. In that case, be honest with yourself about which kind of person you actually are, not which kind of person you'd like to be. If you have a track record of sticking with slow reward, spreadsheet-driven plans for a year or more without needing intermediate wins, the Avalanche method will save you real money, and it's the right call. If you've started ambitious plans before and quietly let them fade around month 5 or 6, the Snowball method isn't a compromise. It's the version of the plan that's actually going to get finished, and a finished, imperfect plan beats an abandoned, perfect one every single time in real life. Go back to Rachel and Marcus. Same total debt, same starting day, same income. Rachel picked the mathematically correct order. Marcus picked the emotionally correct order. 2 years later, only one of them was actually done. This was never about who was better at math or who wanted it more. It was about which plan was built for how humans actually behave under a slow, difficult goal, not how a spreadsheet behaves. If this changed how you think about your own debt payoff order, subscribe. I break down exactly this kind of financial psychology every week.